Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina Wilcox. My guest today, a running pal of mine, an entrepreneur in the community, Alicia Adamson. Welcome. So glad you're here.
Hi, Trina. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I, like many people that I am connected with and friendships that have formed throughout the years, you are one of those that I met in the running community.
Yes.
And you have been an athlete, not just a runner. You do the tries, you do all kinds of things, and you've been doing it for a long time, as well as running a business. So what's harder, training or running a business?
Oh my gosh, they are both demons of their own
Right.
liking,
Yeah.
like I think with a business there's all the aspects of your customers, your employees, there's all the other people that you have to think about and intermingle with versus with running it's just my husband and I,
Yeah.
I can just be like, nope, this is what we're doing today. And I only have to deal with him saying, okay, that's what we have to do.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that both are about equal.
But I feel like a lot of times you couldn't run a business without the outlet of having fitness, or for us, running is a big thing. What's that done for your business?
Well, I can tell you there have been a couple times where we've come home and we just sit on the couch and we look at each other. This is so boring. Like this, just that aspect of not having that outlet and the release that comes with the exercise. So like you have a really bad day or you have a day with whatever, like everything's gone wrong, what do? Do you come home and do you run it out? Do you go into the weight room and you lift it out so that, all that adrenaline that's there is now gone? And that's usually what we do, where I think a lot of other people don't do that. Like they go home and maybe they sit and they pour themselves a drink, or they open up the freezer and they eat the ice cream, because that's their way of, but for us, it's definitely, we have a bad day, we're going for a run, we're going to go lift, we're going to go swim, and maybe that swim is a little bit harder or easier depending on, the day. Yeah.
Well, I know for you guys, you really turned it into a family affair. You got the kids involved. Was that easy, or did they just want to start tagging along? A little bit of both.
Yeah. So when we first started, it was kind of like, and they had to, like it was, you kind of had to come along because, and we've always been entrepreneurs. So, I mean, ever since the kids were really little, we built businesses. And so even the building of an infrastructure of like, say, the inside of a restaurant, they had to sit and they had to learn how to just not do anything. Or if we were talking to customers, they had to learn how to be quiet, like especially in the car. Like if all of a sudden a customer came on, I had this, they knew right away, don't say anything. Like they knew that it was important, it was a client, be quiet. And so, and they've always been really good about that. And I think both of them separated for a while. So like Devin, he was out for about a year, not really wanting to work with us. And Jillian, she worked at Andy's for a really long time. And I think after a while, they both were like, yeah, I want to come back. I want to, like, and Devin has been with us for about 2 or 3 years now. He came back into the business and, he does a little bit more of the operation management. And Jillian just stepped back in and she's helping with more inventory management. So I think it's more of they finally wanted to, which is what we always wanted. We didn't want it to be a forced thing. Now, when they were little, they didn't have a choice. But now that they're both adults, it's more of you have a choice. You have an opportunity here to help us grow. you either want to be a part of it or you don't. And they both have chosen to be a part of the company.
Was it kind of the same way with running and your fitness events that you went to? Because for a while it was like, here come the Adamsons, and it was like it seemed like they were excited to be there, but I'm sure there were some days they would have rather been at home watching TV and staying under the covers while we were at the races like the crack of dawn.
Yeah. So it started out little things, we did the NAMI was, I think, one of the first ones that we kind of introduced them to, along with the Bass Pro Fitness series, like the Paint the Run and the Zombie Run. And those are really fun kid type events. There's not a lot of pressure for them. And as both of them got older, they realized, hey, nobody else in my age group is really competing. And then at the same time, they also realized that adults aren't scary. Like, they had great conversations with a lot of the adult, running community. And so then they started to really want that. So like even on the training, like the training events, they would go because they knew that they got to see Sandy or Lisa or whoever, and they got to chat it up with them. And a lot of those adults didn't even realize how young my kids were because they were just such well-spoken children. So yes, it was, at first it was just the little kids event, and then it turned into they wanted to, and then it turned into now they're like half and half. They're kind of like, I want to, but I really enjoy sleeping now.
Yeah. Which is to be expected at that young age of experimenting and learning what you really like and what is your own way of having an outlet and everything like that. So
yes.
Yeah. When you said you've always been in entrepreneurship. So let's go way back. Like, what were some of the early endeavors you did? Has that always been what you wanted to do, or was that just kind of a flow with the family thing, or what was that for you on your career path?
Yeah. So when I graduated college, I actually went to work for my husband's dad. And Brandon he had owned his own business. And so then when we sold that business, then Brandon moved back into, working with his father. So we've kind of always worked within the family, businesses. We've always worked as family units. And then later on, I stepped away and formed my own business because it was better for me for my kids. I wanted to raise my kids, and it was easier for me to do graphic design and marketing at the house and watch my two kids. So, that was step number one for that. And then, I became a personal trainer and a group instructor. And again, I was just on my own. I worked for the YMCA, but I still, you were still kind of an independent contractor, but you still, like you could kind of set your schedule. So I still didn't feel as though I had a job,
Right. Yeah.
I could set whatever I wanted to. So that was kind of nice. And then once we moved up here, that was in Florida. So once we moved up here, it was, I had a fitness center, we had the restaurant, and we were doing that. And then we had our concrete stain business.
Okay.
So we've kind of always just been entrepreneurs. Like I mean, since I stepped out of college, I worked a couple things like in rehab and stuff like that. But other than that, I think I've always just
like physical therapy.
Yep. Yeah. I worked, when I was in college, I worked for, prior to college, all the little jobs that you had, like whether it was restaurant or anything. But yeah, I did a lot of rehab work, a lot with Parkinson's patients, which was amazing. Like so much fun, learned so much. So yeah. And then I worked in a nursing home too for a while, in rehab, and that was nice. And I was just an assistant, but it was like what I wanted to do in college. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted to get my degree in. So of course I was stepping into those roles, trying to figure that out. This was, prior to kids. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then when I got out, I got a business degree. And so
Yeah.
that explains why we own businesses.
I don't think I ever knew that you guys had a restaurant.
Yes, it was we owned it in Rogersville. It was
Yeah.
called Red Rock Coffee. So it was a coffee shop.
Okay.
We did a lot of like more healthy type foods.
Yeah.
And the whole point of it was we were supposed to try and do like a 3-part series. It was like open the restaurant, keep the fitness facility going, and eventually open up like a kids play area.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
was, kind of supposed to be all together. But we never got started on the kids area, but it was supposed to kind of be where you want to have dinner or you want to work out, you had a play area that they could go stop in, and then if you wanted to have dinner with your husband or or significant other or whatever, but you had kids and they didn't really want to be at dinner, you could just drop them off at the facility. So but I got sick and that ended that, which is okay.
So you had to do what we all have to do, and that is kind of go with the flow or find new ways to adapt. And where in the timeline does rustic strength come into play?
So Rustic Strength is 7 years old now.
Okay.
So we started the company after the restaurant, after I got sick, and Brandon was still always doing the concrete stuff, like the concrete, we manufacture concrete supplies and everything. And so when I got sick, I couldn't get healthy. And
Yeah.
my son had already had issues as far as like asthma issues and allergy issues. And he had continued to have those problems even later on in life, and they would kind of come and go. And then when I got sick, I had a lot of endocrine issues, and we couldn't figure out why, because my whole food was everything, that was all my healing was my food. And so I knew the food was on point. And so that's when we started looking at like, okay, what else is affecting me that could possibly be affecting the endocrine. And the more we looked at the household products, laundry detergent, dish soap, hand soaps, things like that, we were like, there's something wrong here. And so we just started experimenting, and we finally found stuff that worked and we liked. And we just kind of did it for like 2 years, where we just were using it ourselves. We give it to running friends, like
Yeah.
the OMRR Christmas party, we gave it out as a gift, and we had friends and family that we just give it to, and explain what our mission was. And the more we talked to people, the more they were like, we want this,
Yeah.
we need this, because there's not stuff out there on the market like it. And we are definitely different than
Yeah.
other companies that are out there. So yeah, I mean, it's
Well, for people
definitely.
that don't know, tell people what exactly.
So, Rustic Strength, the point of Rustic Strength is the fact that we have little to no impurities in the products themselves. So, a lot of the raw goods that they don't tell you about will have an impurity. And we'll just take one for right now, like 1,4-dioxane. So, your ethoxylated alcohols have something called 1,4-dioxane, which is cancer causing. So, a lot of your big brand name brands that you can get at like Target and Walmart, they will have an ethoxylated alcohol in them, and they're cancer causing. All the fragrances that are inside those big names usually contain phthalates, which are endocrine disruptors. And that's why like it's super important to know what these chemicals do, and the endocrine disrupting is bad for you because it messes with your whole system. So take, I'm losing.
Yeah. You see, I know that there are so many you'll see listed, know this, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's good. But sometimes you don't even know what they do or why they're bad. And it's
Right.
nice to know that. Is there an easy place to go to look those up, or do you just have to search out everything?
So yes and no. There are a lot of things that you can just look up.
Yeah.
Um, but so like if you take laundry detergent, so my website, I actually have a complete blog on all the bad things that can kind of be out there and
Mhm.
what's bad about them. So like your formaldehyde releasers, and what to look for, what ingredient to look for, like your pegs to look for, and which ones are cancer causing, which ones are endocrine disruptors, which ones are just allergens. And as a manufacturer, you kind of have to like pick your poison. It's like, okay, do I want to put cancer causing agents? And I know this is an allergen over here, but it's either that or I have a cancer causing. I'm going to pick an allergen all day long because not everybody is going to be allergic to it.
Right.
Um, and so that's kind of what, you have to look at as a manufacturer. And that's what we did is we were just like, what we like the skin allergens are really important, but you don't have to have the impurities as well. And so that's where we really, as a company, we really look at all of that and try and remove any cancer causing, any impurities. And I mean, there's always going to be impurities. It's just how much. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. The FDA doesn't really regulate your inside environment. So your dish soap could have 1,4-dioxane in it and in the correct amount, that is allowable by the FDA. Your hand soap, your spray that you use to freshen up your, pillows or your house or
Right.
whatever, that could all have those minimal amounts. But those minimal amounts all add up when you're using that product over and over and over again. So even though the manufacturer is doing their best by putting out the minimal amount, we're not regulating it inside our home. And so that regular amount becomes tenfold.
Yeah. So you did a lot of experimenting kind of on yourself through this process. Did you find what was there something specific that surprised you that when you were working through this that you wouldn't have known or discovered otherwise?
Oh my gosh. Well, yes and no. I think you always discover new things no
Yeah.
matter what. Like I think, and when my son got sick when he was little, I mean, I had already done a lot of research.
Yeah.
Um, but things not necessarily changed, but the information, the amount of information that you can find changed. Because when he was
Yeah.
little, the internet was still new, but it wasn't, we didn't have the plethora of stuff out there
Right.
that we do now.
Right.
And I'm not saying everything out there is 100%. You still have to read the good parts, read what you want that go with what you're trying to say, and then read the stuff that's totally against what you're trying to get at. And because somewhere in the middle is what the truth is. So
Yeah.
you can't have one extreme and ignore this and
Right.
still, have a good product or have a good life or anything. You have to be able to balance the good on the right and the bad on the left, and then be able to come to a good understanding of what you're reading.
Yeah.
Because there's so much misinformation, and unfortunately a lot of your bloggers, a lot of your media, they're really just putting it out there to get your attention, not necessarily to inform you. And so I've kind of taken my company in a different way. And I always say, I'm putting this information for you. I want you to read it. I will give you all of my sources. And if you still don't buy my product, that is okay, as long as you are an informed consumer
Right.
of what you are getting into. And if you're going to buy this other natural type brand, know that they could be hiding things in there and calling it, they call the term greenwashing. They could be greenwashing you with all these pretties on the front, but you go to the back and you really start digging deep into their ingredients. You're like, okay, well, that's not okay, and that's a peg. Oh, that's not good, and But unfortunately, I can only give information. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't make you change. I can't, all I can do is say, hey, this is what you're up against. This could be what's making you sick, or, it could be something different.
Let's go back to when you were saying you were really sick because, Run Radio, we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about inspiring strides in life, business, and beyond. And a lot of that, many people come across a chronic condition at some point in their life. When you got sick, what was it like for you to get a diagnosis or get doctors to listen to you? Because I know that's been a source of contingency for so many patients, and it's eye-opening at the work you have to do to be your own healthcare advocate. So was that something that was took blinders off of your eyes, was like, man, I'm gonna have to do the heavy lifting here?
Yeah, it really was. So when I got sick, I mean, basically what happened in a nutshell was I owned too many things at one time, go figure. And I basically depleted everything out of my system. So we were heavy into racing at that time, and I was, doing all my classes. So physical fitness was everything I did, and I was not consuming enough calories. And so my body was just like shutting down slowly on me. And when I would go to the doctors, they're like, well, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, all my blood work would check out, all my, your kidneys. I had ultrasounds on my kidneys. I had almost every test run, and they were just like, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, oh yeah, there's something wrong with me, because like, I couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs without needing a nap. I couldn't hang the Christmas tree. There were so many things. I couldn't drive by myself anymore without, I'd get to the grocery store, which was 20 minutes away from the house, and the black, like the black coming through the eyes, and you're so tired and you can't see, and you're just exhausted. I was always afraid that I was never going to make it home again. So I stopped going to the grocery store by myself. I pulled my children from school and started homeschooling them, because I was afraid that at that point I would forget to get my kids.
Oh no.
Like, I would not be able to get into the car and get my kids. So some of the symptoms were like, I'd pick up my phone and I wouldn't even know what my phone did. Like, I mean, like, okay, I know what the device is, but I don't know how to activate it. So like, like brain chemistry was just not there. Like, even when the restaurant, I had known customers for years coming into the restaurant, and I couldn't recall their name. I had no idea who they were. I'm like, I know you, but I can't get your name. I can't recall things.
This was pre 2020, right? This was,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. It was like 2013.
So people don't confuse, because some of those symptoms are dead on to what some people are suffering with today. But just for point of reference,
no,
that's terrifying, Alicia.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, that was back in 2013. So that was when, it really started for me as far as the sickness. And it took everything. I had to do everything on my own. So, you're reading, your adrenal failure books, and, chronic fatigue books, and, you're trying all this. I went to acupuncture, and they helped a little bit, but it wasn't, 100. It wasn't what cured me. And really what did it was time. My body needed the time and the nutrition that it took to get back. And honestly, from 2013 until 2023 have all been just healing years for me. I'd be working out, and I'd be feeling like, yes, I've got this. And then everything just falls apart again. And I'm like, darn it, it's going to be a great year. No, it's not. So it's been definitely have to take control. And, like, not everything you get on the internet is going to be 100, like, you're going to have to, figure out what parts work for you. So like I was pretty much a vegetarian from the age of 17 until probably 2015. And the one of the recommendations was to start introducing red meat back into my diet. And I was super against it. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm like, I've been this way for years. I don't need the red meat. And they were like, well, why don't you just start with bone broth? And so I did. I started with the oxtail bone broth and little things, little increments. And the next thing I know, I'm getting better and better, and I'm healing and I'm healing, and I eat red meat now.
But you can still do it ethically. There are still ways to be an ethical meat eater if that's, your reasoning in the first place. And know that's something that a lot of people get worked up on,
Yeah.
but it can
Yes.
be done. Because my husband went through a similar thing. Like he had cut meat out of his life, and then with a diagnosis, was not able to get the calorie content he needed, everything. So he did introduce it back, and it made a world of difference. So,
Right. Yeah. And I
it,
think that's what's important is everybody's journey is different.
yeah,
And but it's also okay to talk about everybody's journey, because one little nugget from somebody else
yes,
could be that little nugget that you're missing. And you're not saying that, I'm not saying everything I went through is going to help you, but if I tell my story or if we talk about it, like that one little nugget of, oh, magnesium,
yes, yes.
I would have never
I
thought,
know. Yeah.
So just those little
Yeah.
things of those little dietary things that people just don't get, and not everybody has not everybody has the financial means to go to a nutritionalist all the time.
Right.
And not that they're not warranted, because they super are. But it's important to also be able to talk and listen to somebody else's what they've been through and what's worked for them.
For sure. I think like what you're saying about taking pieces of what worked for you in life can also be tied back to running. I think running and the parallels of life are so, like, running to me has been the great teacher. It teaches you endurance, teaches you patience, overcoming, all the things. What has been the biggest thing running's taught you?
Grace.
Grace. Yes, that's another one for sure.
Yeah, being patient with giving myself grace when things don't go the way they should go in my head. That just being like, okay, well, that didn't work out. That wasn't the way I was supposed to. Okay, but yeah.
And I feel like those are easier to do. Those graceful pardons are easier to do early as a runner, and even in training. But as the stakes get higher, we start getting into it. We like it. We win a few races, and it's like, well, I want to do better. I want to do more. And then, like you're saying, you get derailed, and you're not exactly the same beginner you were, but starting over it just looks different.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to say that, so like when I got sick, I mean, I was pretty fast, and I haven't been that fast since, but I still showed up, and I still went out and I did it, and I still went to the races, and I still did what I want, even though I wasn't who I knew I could be at that race. And that was hard. That was super hard, because I knew I was faster. I knew I was stronger. I knew I could run up this hill, but I had to walk the hill.
Yeah.
And giving and allowing myself that's okay. I still showed up. I still did it. And no, I am not who I was before 2013. I will never get back to that. where I was at 2013. But will I be better? Yes, mentally better.
Yes.
I may not be as fast, but going into that race, I'm going to be mentally better, physically better, but not necessarily as fast as I was. But I'm still going to show up and I'm still going to be me. And, you know, I always get reprimanded by Raul because he's always like, if you would just shut up, you'd run faster. I'm like, I know, but see, I know everybody, and it's so hard to be like, not be like, hey,
And
hey.
you're such an encouraging spirit out there on the road. And I want to say though, at least I feel like showing up is different for everyone. When you show up, you need to show up how it's best for you. And I'm kind of in a place where I am having trouble going back out to the races, but I am showing up by getting out on the road where I'm at and not letting myself be completely taken out of the game. So I do think that it's important to say that it does look different for everybody.
Yes.
But don't let yourself get completely overwhelmed to where you're not even showing up for you, not social media, you. I mean, because that is such a space that can be a good encourager at times and also be very defeating at times. So I hope people get that and just find that the running community is a great place to be and be there how you can be there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to be the one that's always like on social media and going, "Oh, I ran 100 miles today." It's like, the fact that you went out and did two, great. That's awesome. The fact that you're still out there and you're doing it regardless of whether you're showing up to a race or not, it doesn't matter. You're showing up to life and you're putting in 100 into your life, and that's what's important. You're giving yourself grace and love, and you're showing that by doing these things, whether it's running or biking or swimming, hiking, it doesn't matter. As long as you're getting out and you're getting it done, that's what is 100 for me. Is like, just get it done.
And another one of the great ways that you are showing up is you're involved with Bass Pro and you're involved in the training. You can come back and talk about that next time because we're running out of time, but give people a quick 50-foot flyover of what it is and where they can go to get more information until you can come back and tell us the gritty details.
Well, Bass Pro, you can definitely hit me at the Bass Pro Fitness Community on Facebook. I'm on there every day, and you can always message me if you have questions. But like, we have the training this Friday coming up at Mother's. And then OMRR training should start somewhere in July, usually. That's about when the training starts. And then we'll have Recycle Run July 27th. So that's another training run that you can come out to. But even if you're new to the running community, I'm more than happy to tell you where to go as far as like what groups to join. We've got so many groups that meet in the mornings or meet in the afternoons, meet on the weekends, whether it's road or trail. And there's all levels that go to all of these events. So and they're all always training for something, not just always the Bass Pro events, but they're all like-minded individuals that are patient and caring and just want to see that you're out doing the running or the biking. And even with biking, I know a lot of people that bike, so hit me up for that too. Be more than happy to talk to you about biking.
Sounds great. We'll make sure that you're tagged in the post so people can connect with you. Thank you for sharing. Come back anytime.
All right. Thank you for having me. See you later, honey.
See ya. Be sure you're following along and link over to watch from runradio.net.